King Charles it's my understanding, he's furious about this, and it's a shocking move. Harry and Meghan are so trashy, they're so cheap. Harry, move on. Get over yourself, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, because he thought of himself, JJ,
wet
as
wipe.
the...
He's a wet
well,
wipe.
Isn't he, though? That's a polite way to put it.
Yeah.
They are woke lefties who have destroyed the Tory party. Nigel Farage is the winner, and he's laughing all the way to number 10.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and as always, on a Monday, I'm joined by the Royal Executioner, Mark Dolan. Marky Mark, welcome.
So again. Good to see you, JJ. Couple of things in our inbox today.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Jeez.
An expansionist US president. Usually he's not talking to her dad, Andrew. I mean, it's all kicked off, hasn't
It's
it?
going off. Well, let's start with Trump and Greenland. So he wants Greenland. He's demanding it. He says he's basically owed it because, you know, he's done more for NATO than any of the presidents ever in the history of the world. Is he wrong to I think he's going to give him like 700 billion for it or something?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, he wants to buy it and he's going to forcibly take Greenland. It's interesting. He first had designs on this territory in 2019 in his first term, and he came back having been re-elected, and people thought it was a joke at first because, of course, don't forget he was going to have Canada as well.
Yes.
Which might be next on this shopping list. But, you know, it's interesting covering this story. I think the world's journalists have just been frantically Googling, you know, where is Greenland? What is Greenland? Why does Trump want it? And it's a very significant territory, in fact. On the face of it, it's a meaningless chunk of land. Right? It's 80% ice. It's got a population of 57,000 people.
Yeah.
It's not significant, but it's geopolitically very significant. It sits there in the Arctic Circle between North America and the Arctic. It's neighbored by Russia and Europe. You've got ships passing through, Russian ships, Chinese ships, Russian submarines. Trump is not happy about that. The polar ice caps are melting, which is making that strait of water wider and more accessible. So he's definitely concerned about that. It's very important for America's ballistic missile defense system. And of course, they've got a huge military base on there already. So I think you've got the defense aspect of it. And then, of course, it's very rich in minerals, uranium and other precious minerals and oil. And our Donald, he loves a drop of oil.
He does. Him and P. Diddy. They love the
Isn't
oil.
it? Isn't it? He can't resist. He can't help himself. And so therefore, you've got so many aspects to which this becomes an attractive proposition to Trump. I think there's a third element, which is legacy. I think he'd like to say that he has literally redrawn the map of the United States and made it bigger. Big is beautiful for Donald.
Yeah.
And that he can retire. He can cease to be president by the end of his term. And Greenland has essentially been co-opted by the United States. America, richer, more access to precious minerals and oil and uranium, and safer. That's the sell. The problem you got, JJ, is the execution, the manner by which he does it, which is to basically destroy the principle of NATO.
Yeah. Which maybe it's time. Listen, he's never been a fan of NATO. I think we rely far too heavily on the US for NATO to exist.
Well, you're so right. And this idea that he destroys NATO, well, no. He is NATO.
Yeah.
Because it's without America's military support, NATO is nothing. It's a toothless tiger. And we in Europe have only got ourselves to blame. Since the war, we've been very complacent. We've relied on the largesse of the United States, their military prowess, their huge investment, their disproportionate investment in military. And what have we done? You know, we've been sort of driving around in nice cars and having a big ever-growing welfare state.
Yeah.
Very, very complacent, the West. You know, we've opened our borders. We're losing our national identity. We've got terrorism. We've got alien ideologies that hate what we're about. We've got history lessons at school where we're told, you know, Britain's an evil, terrible country. You know, we've gone woke. We forgot what a woman is and what a guy is.
It's crazy that the UAE are telling their own students, if you go and study in the West, we're not going to fund you because you're going to be at risk of being radicalized over there. Like, that's crazy.
Most definitely. And that's not fake news. That's a shocking story, and it tells you where we are. So Europe, you know, it's a crisis of Europe's making. It's obviously a sad moment, JJ, because this is the US turning its back on European security and essentially putting America first. I will say to a degree that's always been the case. And let's not forget that America were quite late to the party in the Second World War as well. It's a hard sell for Trump supporters, though, here in the UK, because on balance, when it came to the last election, my view was, well, America has a choice between the maverick, rather unpredictable Donald Trump. In my view, an eccentric and slightly mad individual versus Kamala Harris. And I thought, on balance, if I was in America, I'd vote for Trump. And since then, there have been so many positives. Closed the southern border, ended illegal immigration, which we can only dream of here.
Yeah.
Improved the terms by which America trades with the world. Those tariffs, and no Democratic president will reverse them. So that will be a legacy. Why? Because billions are coming in and America's getting a fairer deal.
Yeah.
He's obviously got rid of wokery in the public institutions. You don't have men now participating in women's sports in his acts net zero. So there's so many positives, but this is a difficult one because what you're really doing is essentially making an enemy of Europe. And I think people will be very compromised. Probably the person most compromised as we speak is the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, because he thought of himself, JJ,
wet
as
wipe.
the
He's a wet
well,
wipe.
isn't he though? That's a polite way to put it.
Yeah.
He's considered himself to have been the Trump whisperer. And one of the few positives of his premiership so far has been his negotiations with the US president, particularly on those tariffs. Don't forget that Europe are paying 20% tariffs on goods going into America. Yeah. We're paying 10%. Why? Hello, Brexit. But anyway, the bottom line is that Starmer now, he's in a pickle. He's got loads of journalists out of bed early, which is never a good idea on this.
Dairy.
Isn't it? Unless it's good news, like I'm calling a general election, which I know your viewers of the Daily Expresso and your readers of the Express would dream of.
Oh,
everyone wants an election
great.
now. But if it's not that, he gives a nothing burger press conference in which he mumbles around and says nothing, and essentially he's still going softly with the Trump. But you know what? Trump's going to get his way. And I think Greenland will be in the gift of the United States within this term. The question is what it does for global security.
See, people saying how it's going to destroy NATO. Ultimately, if the US gets Greenland, that actually strengthens NATO and Europe as a whole against Russia.
Well, this is the big thing. Do you want the Chinese and the Russians having access to Greenland with all of its incredible resources and how incredibly strategically significant it is as well? You absolutely don't. And as we've said on this show before, that when there's a policy that Russia don't like, and that China don't like, such as the removal of Maduro in Venezuela or the strikes on subterranean nuclear targets in Iran. If Russia don't like it and China don't like it, it's good enough for me. Do you know what I think is going to happen? We've seen the art of the deal here, and this is Trump at his most unapologetic, right? He's most ruthless. I think that some sort of arrangement will be ironed out. It could be that America has enhanced access to Greenland. It may not be that they have to take the territory, but Washington are on maneuvers and something's going to happen. We're not going to have the status quo, that's for sure. And America, of course, they've got the fiscal firepower. Those tariffs, Donald Trump called himself Mr. Tariff in the run-up to the election, and oh boy, is he using them. But this is what we don't have the tariff power because we export nothing. We're useless. The other thing, by the way, we've got to do is we've got to have a conversation about defense.
Yeah.
Because Europe is so fragile. And it was never right that America were responsible for us policing our own borders. Donald Trump's been right, by the way. He said, you've relied on Russian oil and gas for so long, especially countries like Germany.
Yeah,
but also, and you can't police you've got the boats, illegal immigration in the Channel. The Americans have total contempt for that, and rightly so.
Before we move on, do you know why Greenland is called Greenland?
No.
So the Vikings discovered it, and it was the Danish ones, and they didn't want to have their enemies know between Greenland and Iceland. They thought they got to Greenland and it's barren, so they told everyone it's called Greenland, full of trees, full of greenery, great for farming. When they went to Iceland, it was actually full of greenery, so they called Iceland to make their enemies think that Iceland is a terrible cold place. Do not go to Iceland. So the enemies of the Vikings would then go to Greenland, thinking we can settle there, and that's how.
That is genius. So it's fake news.
Fake
news.
It's
a big fat lie. So Greenland isn't green, and Iceland isn't icy.
Yes.
Oh my God, I tell you learn a new thing every day.
Well, let's move on. Your favourite man is back in the UK. Good old Hazza.
Harry, the H-bomb.
Yeah.
My husband.
She's not here.
I call him H.
That's a very good impression.
She must be lonely. She's in the Montecito mansion mainlining flower sprinkles in his absence.
I'm miss Harry. I have some more flower sprinkles. Lavender towels.
It's like she's in the room with us right now.
And I'm apologise because first of all, it's going to destroy our ratings because no one wants to hear that voice, and secondly, you're going to get PTSD. Yeah, Harry's back, and
Is he suing now?
He's suing the Associated Newspapers, who publish the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday, and it's a shocking move. King Charles it's my understanding, he's furious about this. The royals, notwithstanding their concerns about the activities of the press, do not sue newspapers. Mm-hmm. And yes, he considers himself to be this free, independent, sovereign individual now, the citizen of the world, but he's still got the word prince at the beginning of his name.
Yep.
And he's still the son of the king. Mm-hmm. And he still has designs, by the way, on some kind of, in-out, halfway house royal role. That's his ambition. That's why he keeps coming back to the UK, and that's why he's using Invictus, for example, in 2027 to boost his credentials in this country. Right? Harry is planning the Great British Comeback. But at the moment, what you've got is this rather bitter war against the UK press. He had an aborted legal action against the Mail on Sunday, which he had to essentially it wasn't a settlement. He just withdrew the case, which cost him £1.5 million. So he's had victories and failures in the courts, but he
went against the Mirror, didn't he?
He won the Mirror Group. That's right, exactly. And there was a settlement with the News UK as well, News Group, owned by Mr. Murdoch. So look, he's back, and it's going to do him no favours in his relationship with King Charles, who doesn't want the sight of his son, at war with the UK press, because the royals have to be above politics, and they also mustn't interfere with journalists who are holding these public figures, very privileged people like Harry and Charles and William, to account. So it's not a good look. It's churlish. It's also in reference to things that happened 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, his relationship with Chelsea Davy and Cressida Bonus and others. It's like, Harry, move on. Get over yourself. There's someone else that's really furious about this legal action, and it's William. Oh. Because William has been implicated in some of these court papers, in reference particularly to photographs published of Diana before she passed. And he's named in the legal papers. And again, it's my understanding that William does not want his name on those papers. He doesn't want to be associated with it. This guy's played a blinder as Prince of Wales. He's preparing to be king. He doesn't want this controversy. He doesn't want the headlines. And his spoiled, entitled, indulgent brother has dragged him into the story. And it's going to, there's definitely hope for Charles and Harry going forward. I think you're seeing the thawing of that relationship. We saw it at Clarence House. They may have another face-to-face this year, and they may come together for Invictus in 2027. But William and Harry, forget about it. Okay. It's over.
Damn. Well, whilst Harry's over here, Meghan's been sharing videos of her kids, but not the faces. The faces are still hidden. Now, no matter what she does, people are going to read into this somehow. Is she now going against what she previously said of wanting to control her narrative and have privacy? Because now she's like using the kids to drum up interest in them again?
Definitely. They left the United Kingdom because they didn't want to be public figures. They wanted privacy. They wanted to have a normal life. So where did they go? Hollywood, California. Good luck with that. And they do. Yeah, they were in like Canada for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
In a kind of rural mansion. It's like, this is a bit dull, isn't it? She missed the attention. So they wound up in California. Not exactly geographically Hollywood, but an hour away, Montecito, California, which, by the way, where all the Hollywood stars live, including Gwyneth Paltrow and, of course, Oprah Winfrey and others. So this is a couple that decided they want privacy, at which point they went on a world privacy tour. And you have the Harry and Meghan documentary, which I believe was treason. If only, and then some. If only the royals could sue, it would be the mother of all court cases. And that was shocking. You saw Queen Elizabeth mocked with Meghan recreating the curtsy moment. That was a shocker, wasn't it? And Harry wanted the ground to open up and swallow him whole. That was awkward. And then, of course, the Oprah interview, which was contained shocking, unfounded allegations against an unnamed member of the royal family, with the pink finger subtly pointed at Princess Catherine. Again, she can't defend herself. And then, of course, the book Spare, which I was going to say Harry wrote. Harry, he's not a writer. Okay, he doesn't do sentences. Right? At best, he sketched out ideas on a crayon, and Meghan's written the whole thing.
Chapter 1, Harry, my story.
So now you've got that. So that was wild hypocrisy. And now they've done it again with the kids. So they are always making these pronouncements through their charitable foundations about the dangers of social media and young people.
Yeah.
And what do? They put their kids on Instagram. Now, again, it's my understanding. I've got people that have been close to Harry over the years, but this is not Harry's bag. He doesn't want Archie and Lily on Instagram. He doesn't really want them talked about at all because he was born famous. And he has actually no desire to be famous. Of course, you never want the thing that you were born with, do you? You know, it's different for Meghan. She was an ordinary girl who dreamed of being a star.
Yeah.
So fame for her is the big commodity. Harry's like, thanks, but no thanks. I think Harry would be so happy on a farm in Africa. I really do. In Botswana or somewhere like that. Just a simple rural existence. But Meghan, of course, is fame hungry. So yeah, so they've said, social media and the kids, it's not good, and then bang. And also we protect the privacy of our children, and then you put them on the internet non-stop. And yes, you're so right that it's about clicks, it's about relevance, it's about column inches, it's about propping up Meghan's failing media career and her failed retail platform, and the fact that the two of them have become so toxic. So she's using the kids. Yeah, we had the Halloween video with Archie and Lily doing little faces with and it's terrible for the kids because they are being made celebrities at the age of, what are they now, 4 and 6?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
And by the way, it doesn't fix anything to put a big fat heart on their face or show the back of them. In many ways, that creates more curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your kids are either on the internet or not. And I think the way that they should do it is the way that William and Catherine do it, which is to have an official portrait of the kids every so often. Once a year, Christmas or a birthday, just a professional photographer comes in, takes their photo.
Yeah.
And it's like in a nice little suit, whatever. But instead, it's much trashier. The Harry and Meghan are so trashy. They're so cheap. It's really, really. Certainly, it's inappropriate for royals, the way that they feature the children.
Yeah.
Including that trip to Disneyland. I think that the kids will be furious with their parents when they're older and realise that they've had their privacy invaded. And you can't have it both ways. Your kids are either private or they're not. What do we know about Louis and about Charlotte and about George? We know nothing about them, right? We get a picture once a year. What else could what are they into? What are their ambitions? What are they? No, nothing. And that's how, and these, by the way, they're like next in line to the throne.
Yeah.
Whereas we know too much about Archie and Lily. Meghan's decided that she's going to start a business with Lily, right? Lily's 4.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see the video, the loved up dance video, the throwback?
Her and Harry on the grass.
Pass me the sick bag.
Yeah. Well, speaking of feeling sick, let's talk about Prince Andrew, or just Andrew. He's no longer a prince.
I know, the branding is still like...
Yeah.
It's a temptation to call him Prince.
Yeah. So Eugenie is one of his daughters, has apparently cut all contact with him, which, if I found out my dad was hanging around with a paedophile, I'd probably cut contact with him too.
Yeah, the girls are devastated. The gravy train has ended.
Yes. Yeah.
Beatrice and Eugenie, they love the royal trips.
Yeah.
And they love HRH. And being princess. They are all over that because they're not serving royals. They both have normal jobs and careers and families. But it's interesting how they've clung on to the royal patronage. And they love that and that elevated position. They were with the royal family at Sandringham over Christmas, so they have escaped the punishment that Sarah Ferguson and Andrew have suffered. But they know deep down that they're tarred by the same brush. And I think Eugenie in particular is furious about it. Beatrice is trying to tread that fine line. I don't know if it's the syndrome of the eldest, trying to hold the family together, sense of responsibility. Eugenie, she's checked out. Yeah. She's like, I'm done. This is hideous grifters that are my parents who have brought bad headlines. And like you said, you've got to feel for her because you don't choose your parents, do you? But it's a shocking move, and it'll be devastating to Andrew and Sarah because I think Andrew felt that he'd lost the titles, lost his military honours, lost his public role, lost his accommodation. But he thought the one thing he had was his girls.
Yeah, because it wasn't long ago that I was hearing those girls were trying to lobby for him to be brought back into the fold of the family.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was well reported, that they were hopeful of some kind of redemption. There is a flip side to this, which is I know that you've done some brilliant interviews with Andrew Lowney on this show, right?
Yeah.
You've gone crazy viral. What an interesting man. The author of Entitled, which is the book that, I mean, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, wasn't it, for Andrew to a degree, some of the allegations in there. And he's got no sympathy for Beatrice and Eugenie. And he said they're exactly like their parents. They're just as money obsessed, just as obsessed with fame and the privileges of being frontline royals. So he's like, cry me a river, Eugenie.
Yeah.
And there is a flip side to this, which is that Andrew has been found guilty of no crimes.
That's correct.
These are allegations that he strenuously denies. Blood is thicker than water. And it's still your old man.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So this is, it's an unexpected development. And the question you've got to ask now is, what does this mean for Andrew and Sarah Ferguson? Does Fergie drop Andrew as well in order to preserve her own brand? Because she's still got some currency in the United States where people admire her and they think she's got an interesting backstory. So we'll watch this one play out, but it's another bad headline for Andrew, maybe the worst this year so far.
Yeah, it's going to hurt. It's definitely going to hurt him. I want to get your opinion on Robert Jenrick and the defection to reform. We weren't together. We were not together when the news broke. So Kemi Badenoch found out he was going to defect, and he was going to do it in such a horrible way. It was going to tar everyone in the Tory party as being terrible and rubbish at their jobs. So she sacked him, which I think was the right move to do.
Correct.
And then a couple of hours later, he's on stage with Farage saying, "I've always wanted to come to reform. Reform are great, yada, 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 yada." What's your take on the whole situation?
Well, it's funny, isn't it, that everyone won, or you could call it, it's a victory for everyone in a sense, or a scoring draw, depending on your metaphor. And that's because, as you say, Kemi acted swiftly. She showed great political judgment, and she moved fast.
Yeah.
And she was ruthless. And what she did, she spoiled the party. And she's thinking, well, if they're planning some big reveal, then I'm going to be the fly in the ointment. And the gloves are off. So that was brilliant. She did an early morning video in, I think, her bedroom. She had it all blurred out in the background. This was hastily thrown together.
Yeah.
And it showed how they understood, we need to strike while the iron's hot. We need to grab this moment. So it showed courage. It showed great instincts. She is a good politician and she's a great communicator. And we know that she's found her voice as the leader of the opposition. So that's fine. But I've had a lot of people say on my Talk TV show who know the politics scene inside out and the Westminster rumours. And what they're saying is it was the winning of a battle, but not the war.
Okay.
So this is a sort of temporary reprieve for Kemi. She's made the best out of a bad situation. And what is that bad situation? That the right of her party are leaving the Conservatives like rats leaping off a sinking ship. So this provides Kemi with a big problem. She's a robustly conservative woman. She grew up in Nigeria where she experienced socialism. The people that have lived with socialism are always the most robust conservatives.
Yeah.
They've seen with their first hand how it doesn't work as an economic model, leads to poverty, bankruptcy, further inequality, corruption, and misery. I mean, it's not great. I don't think you can tell. I'm not a fan.
You're reselling it to me.
Yeah, that's it. So therefore, so she is a true conservative. But the issue you've got is that all the people behind her are massive Lib Dems.
Yeah.
Half of the shadow cabinet didn't want to leave the ECHR. Robert Jenrick said that he felt the Tory party are not sorry for 14 years of misrule. They're not sorry for the boats. They're not sorry for net zero. They're not sorry for an ever-expanding welfare state. And that they're just pretending to be. And he said that a lot of them, when he was running for the leadership, a lot of them said, look, we admire you. We think you'd be a great leader, but we can't support you because you want to exit the ECHR. And we can't. And now they're all saying, oh, yeah, we want to do it. So I think what you've got, there's a big problem strategically for Kemi. She's a conservative leader of a Liberal Democrat party. It's the Tory wets that have survived. And now you've got the likes of Matthew Parris, who's an ex-Tory MP, writing in the Times this week saying this is wonderful news for Kemi because she can invite people like Michael Heseltine and Dominic Grieve and David Gauke back into the party. JJ, those people are more left-wing than Che Guevara, right? They make Keir Starmer look like a Tory. They are woke. lefties who have destroyed the Tory party and who Margaret Thatcher waged war against in the 80s, and now they're back with a vengeance. So I'd say about Kemi, right leader, wrong party, she'd be far happier at reform. But
Well,
ain't going to happen, of course.
Zia Youssef seems to think that now that they've got Jenrick, they're going to have a much better chance of winning the next general election. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I think a lot of people look at Jenrick and think, is he trustworthy? Is he just after political ambition? His whole drive is to get to the top. I wonder how he's going to be in a couple of years with Farage.
You wouldn't lend him a fiver, would you?
You wouldn't.
That's exactly it. And he definitely would win the Traitors if it was a celebrity
Yes.
version. I mean, they'd just give it to him straight away. Go, Robert Jenrick's the winner. We don't need a show. Because he's ruthless, he's ambitious. And also, don't give me this business about changing your mind politically. JJ, I've known you a long time. You're a very consistent man. I mean, you like tweak your worldview a little bit. But, you arrive into the world and you just like see it how you see it.
Yeah.
And so this business about, how he was basically very pro Remain and a big Cameron supporter, who, by the way, began the wokeification of the Tory party, right? That's when they shifted left, was under Cameron, and he was super keen to have, the Tory party be a broad church, right? Well, that's been a disastrous move. Yeah. That's what opened up the space for Farage. So he's been on, and so this guy, Robert Jenrick, right? He's had more journeys than Phileas Fogg. And I'm so sorry, but that is a problem, and that is a red flag. And he's like, what's he going to think next year?
Yeah.
So that you're right to point that out. The flip side of that is that he repositioned himself after the election as on the right of the party, and he was keeping a lot of Tory supporters on board because they're thinking, well, the Tories are basically glorified Lib Dems now, but at least with someone like Jenrick in the shadow cabinet, he's like the flag bearer for conservatism. So you've got Kemi in him, and that's enough to keep. So now with him going, you've got robust conservatives like Tories who are thinking, well, I've got to go to reform now because where are the right-wing people? It's not enough for the leader to be right-wing. And also, this is Kemi, who was in the cabinet when we signed up for the madness of net zero. Yep. And she was there for the, in my humble opinion, COVID overreaction, which was very illiberal, economically ruinous, and very unconservative. And then, of course, she also had the opportunity of tearing up those EU laws to which we needlessly subscribe. There was going to be a bonfire of the regulations. Remember that? Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, she's certainly got a case to answer. But what happens, I think, overall, it was a great maneuver by Kemi, but I think that, as usual, Nigel Farage is the winner, and he's laughing all the way to number 10.
Yeah, it's his to lose, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Are you familiar? My batteries are running out. I need some more caffeine. Are you familiar with the story, Nurse Jennifer Melly? This is the nurse who is facing being thrown out of her profession after she spoke out about a torrent of racial abuse that she got at the hands of a paedophile whom she misgendered. It's a man. It is a man. Like, she called him Mr. because he's a man. And this guy, the man, is a paedophile who has been taken to hospital because he had a urinary tract infection. He racially abused her. He racially abused this nurse, Jennifer. She then retold the story to other people and said, yeah, he's Mr. This, and now she's the one who's getting called before a trial. It's absolute madness.
It's total madness. And where to start with this? First of all, she's been attacked for her opinions about gender. And I have to tell you, JJ, that it's not an opinion.
No.
To be gender critical, which is what they call someone that believes there are two sexes, is to be gender factual. Yeah. Right? It's not a personal view you have that someone with a penis is a man and someone with a womb is a woman. That's I mean, a cursory glance through a biology textbook will tell you that. Yeah. And then, of course, we have mercifully, the verdict of the Supreme Court as well. Yep. So this woman ought to have been protected, not for her views, but for stating reality. And she was, by the way, incredibly empathetic towards this dreadful human being. Dreadful not because they're trans, but because you mentioned
a mad racist and a paedophile.
Small matter of being an appalling racist and paedophile, and violent as well, very threatening.
Yeah.
So she actually was very empathetic towards this individual and said, I will use your chosen name. So she's no bigot.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people like, I'm not even playing that game. I'm not
Yeah.
going to call you Rose. But she's like, I've got no problem calling you Rose. But I'm afraid that my religion doesn't allow me to, in all good faith, call you she. And I mean, a torrent of racist abuse. Why? And by the way, the worst kind with the N-word.
Yeah.
Where is the protection from her employer on that one? And the reason why is because there is a hierarchy of priorities for the woke people who dominate our public institutions, particularly the NHS. The NHS has got crazy woke now. And, right, understandably, and this is one of the good things about woke, right? They don't like racism.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on board with that. Call me woke. By the way, please don't clip that. Dolan says, call me woke. Career over. But basically, that's fine, isn't it? But that is superseded by the mad gender ideology.
Yeah.
So from their point of view, it was worse that she called this individual Mr. than she was referenced as the N-word.
Yeah.
Right? In their mad hierarchy of priorities, it's the ultimate cardinal sin. But why do they have to police gender ideology so much, right? That's the idea that, sex is a fluid thing and you can get born in the wrong body. Why is the protection of that? Why is it policed so aggressively? And the reason why is because it isn't true.
Yeah.
So when something isn't true, you've got to be really authoritarian about it.
Yeah.
And it was that line from George Orwell in 1984 that it was the most important priority of the government was to get you to not believe what you see and what you hear.
Yeah.
The truth of your eyes and your ears was their most significant command. It's like you've got to, 2 and 2 is 5.
Yeah.
And if not, you're a bigot. So this poor woman, and now, and you know what they say about this punishment? It's tribunal. She could lose her job, and she's a very caring person, and she loves her job. The next tribunal, it's not till April. It's January now. She's got months of this to go. This has been hanging over her for so long. Absolute misery. Can you imagine the stress, the financial implications? She's not a rich woman. She's not independently wealthy. And yet the NHS body looking after this are quite happy to subject her to this misery for having committed no crime whatsoever. And I mean, it's just, what are you going to do? But I mean, hopefully this will wake people up. These kind of stories will wake people up to the madness. And by the way, it's not a good look for the NHS.
No, it's not at all.
Because this is the NHS publicly funded that shouldn't be politically divisive. And therefore, they shouldn't be offering, there shouldn't be leaflets that don't mention the word woman in relation to the menopause.
Or talk about chest feeding.
Can you
Ridiculous.
imagine birthing humans?
Yeah.
I mean, what an insult to women. Right? If you called my mother a birthing human, she'll, good luck.
Yeah.
Right? She'll give you a clip round the ear.
Yeah. Good.
And rightly so. And it's a profound insult. So I can only pray for this woman that she prevails. Can you imagine if she lost her career? It's unimaginable. But it demonstrates the ideology in our public institutions. And that's something that's got to be ripped out. JJ, I'm always saying that the country needs an economic revolution because we live beyond our means and we're never going to grow with these taxes. We need a societal, like a cultural revolution where we need to strip out the wokery in our public institutions.
Yeah.
And we need a political revolution where we essentially need to just that establishment idea of keeping the status quo of how we run things in this country. It's, we need a disruptor. We need change.
We need common sense.
Yeah.
And thankfully, viewers and listeners to this podcast can get more common sense with you on your weekend breakfast show on Talk, the home of common sense.
I try.
Well, that is all we have time for this week. Mark Dolan, thank you as always. And thank you.
JJ.
If you think we've earned it, please do like and subscribe. And don't forget, you can listen to the Daily Expresso on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Bye-bye for now.